Good evening, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin, in for Aaron Burnett. Out front tonight, we have breaking news. The resistance, not the resistance from the left, but the resistance from within. In a stunning and unprecedented move, the New York Times is publishing a shocking anonymous op-ed from a senior Trump administration official. It is so unusual. It is so biting. It's such an indictment of the president. The only way to lay out the case this person makes is to read the entire thing to you. So here it is in full, the opinion piece in the New York Times. President Trump is facing a test to his presidency unlike any faced by a modern American leader. It's not just the special counsel that looms large, or that the country is bitterly divided over Mr. Trump's leadership, or even that his party might well lose the House to an opposition hell-bent on his downfall. The dilemma, which he does not fully grasp, is that many of the senior officials in his own administration are working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. I would know I am one of them, he writes. Goes on to say, to be clear, ours is not the popular resistance of the left. We want the administration to succeed and think that many of its policies have already made America safer and more prosperous. But we believe our first duty is to this country. And the president continues to act in a manner that is detrimental to the health of our republic. That is why many Trump appointees have vowed to do what we can to preserve our democratic institutions while thwarting Mr. Trump's more misguided impulses until he is out of office. The root of the problem is the president's amorality. Anyone who works with him knows he is not moored to any discernible first principles that guide his decision-making. Although he was elected as a Republican, the president shows little affinity for ideas long espoused by conservatives, free minds, free markets, and free people. At best, he has invoked these ideals in scripted setting. At worst, he has attacked them outright. In addition to his mass marketing of the notion that the press is the enemy of the people, President Trump's impulses are generally anti-trade and anti-democratic. Don't get me wrong, he writes. There are bright spots that the near-ceaseless negative coverage of the administration fails to capture: effective deregulation, historic tax reform, a more robust military, and more. But these successes have come despite, not because of, the president's leadership style, which is impetuous, adversarial, petty, and ineffective. From the White House to executive branch departments and agencies, senior officials will privately admit their daily disbelief at the commander-in-chief's comments and actions. Most are working to insulate their operations from his whims. Meetings with him veer off topic and off the rails. He engages in repetitive rants, and his impulsiveness results in half-baked, ill-informed, and occasionally reckless decisions that have to be walked back. There is literally no telling whether he might change his mind from 1 minute to the next, a top official complained to me, the writer, of course, recently, exasperated by an Oval Office meeting at which the president flip-flopped on a major policy decision he'd made only a week earlier. The erratic behavior would be more concerning if it weren't for unsung heroes in and around the White House. Some of his aides have been cast as villains by the media, but in private, they have gone to great lengths to keep bad decisions contained to the West Wing, though they are clearly not always successful. It may be cold comfort to this chaotic era, but Americans should know that there are adults in the room. We fully recognize what is happening, and we are trying to do what's right, even when Donald Trump won't. He goes on. The result is a two-track presidency. Take foreign policy. In public and in private, President Trump shows a preference for autocrats and dictators, such as President Vladimir Putin of Russia and North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, and displays little genuine appreciation for the ties that bind us to allied, like-minded nations. Astute observers have noted, though, that the rest of the administration is operating on another track, one where countries like Russia are called out for meddling and punished accordingly, and where allies around the world are engaged as peers rather than ridiculed as rivals. On Russia, for instance, the president was reluctant to expel so many of Mr. Putin's spies as punishment for the poisoning of a former Russian spy in Britain. He complained for weeks about senior staff members letting him get boxed into further confrontation with Russia, and he expressed frustration the United States that the United States continued to impose sanctions on the country for its malign behavior. But his national security team knew better. Such actions had to be taken to hold Moscow accountable. This isn't the work of the so-called deep state, he writes. It's the work of the steady state. Given the instability many witnessed, there were early whispers within the cabinet of invoking the 25th Amendment, which would start a complex process for removing the president. But no one wanted to precipitate a constitutional crisis. So we will do what we can to steer the administration in the right direction until, one way or another, it's over. The bigger concern is not what Mr. Trump has done to the presidency, but rather what we as a nation have allowed him to do to us. We have sunk low with him and allowed our discourse to be stripped of civility. Senator John McCain put it best in his farewell letter. All Americans should heed his words and break free of the tribalism trap with the high aim of uniting through our shared values and love of this great nation. We may no longer have Senator McCain, he writes, but we will always have his example, a lodestar for restoring honor to public life and our national dialogue. Mr. Trump may fear such honorable men, but we should revere them. And finally, he puts it this way. There is a quiet resistance within the administration of people choosing to put country first, but the real difference will be made by everyday citizens rising above politics, reaching across the aisle, and resolving to shed the labels in favor of a single one: Americans. Again, a current senior Trump administration official in his own words in the New York Times tonight. Caitlin Collins is out front for us now, live at the White House. Caitlin, the president responding to these words, to this opinion piece. What's he saying?
In his own words, Kate, the president, it didn't take him long to respond to this. He had an event with sheriffs here at the White House. He was about half an hour late to that event, and presumably that's because of this op-ed, this stunning op-ed written by someone who works here in his own administration. The president came out, he denounced not only the author of this op-ed, but also the New York Times for publishing it, and he was armed with a diatribe and a list of his accomplishments. Here's what he said.
So if the failing New York Times has an anonymous editorial, can you believe it? Anonymous, meaning gutless, a gutless editorial. We're doing a great job. The poll numbers are through the roof. Our poll numbers are great. And guess what? Nobody is going to come close to beating me in 2020 because of what we've done.
So you hear from the president there, Kate, and then he's tweeted just a single word, the word treason in all caps with a question mark. And his press secretary, Sarah Sanders, put out a statement calling on the coward, in her words, who wrote this op-ed to resign.
This is a rough enough day, Caitlin, and this is also just as the president is waging a witch hunt in his own administration.
That's right. The White House is already knee-deep in a crisis when it woke up this morning trying to deal with the fallout from that book with Bob Woodward, and the president directing who he believes are loyal aides in this White House to find out who it was that spoke with the veteran reporter for his book, a book that also made stunning allegations, a lot of which seem to be backed up by this op-ed. And now they're scrambling to not only mount a defense to that book, but also to figure out who it was that wrote this op-ed. Kate, there was already this growing sense of paranoia here in the West Wing. Staffers often suspected that anytime anything negative was published about them, it was someone in the White House who didn't like them. And now they're predicting that sense of paranoia is only going to get worse with this op-ed as they are trying to figure out who it is that wrote this, as the president's anger about this only continues to grow here tonight, Kate.
Yeah, if not at a boiling point already, I don't even know where it is right now. Breaking news, the White House calling on the senior Trump administration official behind that stunning New York Times op-ed, calling on that person to resign. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders saying this in a statement: the individual behind this piece has chosen to deceive rather than support the duly elected president of the United States. He is not putting country first, but putting himself and his ego ahead of the will of the American people. This coward should do the right thing and resign. Out front now, Dan Pfeiffer, former senior advisor to President Obama, and Amy Kremer, co-founder and co-chair of Women for Trump. Thanks, guys, for coming in. I really appreciate it. Amy,
thanks for having me.
What does this op-ed tell you about what's happening inside the White House? What's your reaction tonight?
Well, Kate, I mean, I would like to say I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. I mean, I think that the biggest news from this is that the deep state is blatant in our face, trying to subvert the will of the people and trying to take down a president from the inside. And you can't say it's just Democrats that are part of the resistance. There are Republicans in there, too. And like I said, I'm not surprised. But look, at the end of the day, this person is complaining about his style. They list the things he's accomplished, and they're complaining about his style. They're complaining he's not an ideologue, that he can be swayed one way or the other. Well, guess what? When we elected him, we knew that he was not an ideologue. We knew that he was a businessman, that he would do things in an unconventional way. That's why 63 million people voted for him. And this is not just an attack on our president. It's an attack on all of us that voted for him. And I find it outrageous.
The writer, and obviously I've read it a bunch of times now, the writer, it goes into more than style, though, Amy. I mean, he's talking about two tracks of a government right now. The president saying and wanting to do one thing, and the government getting him, boxing him in to do the thing that they think is the right way to go to protect the republic. I mean, Dan, from your perspective, what does this op-ed say?
Well, it reaffirms what we have seen for a year and a half from reporting from CNN, the New York Times, elsewhere, from the Woodward book out this week, is that Donald Trump is dangerously unfit to be president. That's not the opinion of Democrats. That's the opinion of his Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, who called him a moron. That's the opinion of his Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, who said he was like a fifth or a sixth grader. That we have seen this all across the board. What I really wish,
all that, Dan.
We have seen this be again and again and again. Gary Cohn, who said he was a professional liar. This is not surprising. What I think this person should do is, I agree with Sarah Sanders, a sentence I have never said before, is they should resign, put their name to this, and come out to the country, because it makes it easy for people to yell about, say this is the deep state, or for Donald Trump to dismiss this when it's anonymous. Have courage and put your name to it if you truly believe the president is this unfit for the job.
That's interesting, because I feel like this is actually an area where you and Amy are going to agree, Amy.
Absolutely. I mean, they should put their name to it. Anybody that does not believe in this administration and is part of the administration needs to resign immediately. Kate, this is the thing. You know, so you want to impeach Donald Trump, then what? I mean, it's not like Hillary Clinton's going to become president if Donald Trump is impeached. And that's what these people want. We're not going back there.
Sounds like the person in this opinion piece does not want Hillary Clinton to be president.
Well, this is the thing, is I believe this is a coordinated attack. Right when Bob Woodward's book is coming out, then all of a sudden this piece comes out. Why, if Bob Woodward and this person is so concerned about all this stuff, why didn't it come out 2 months ago? Why doesn't it come out at Thanksgiving? Why right now, right when we kick off the midterm madness, where we're about to work on the midterms? This is political. They are trying to take down a president and subvert the will of the people from within.
Woodward's piece was always going to come out around now. I mean, that has been predicted ever since his book was planned. I mean, and the fact that White House even acts surprised that it's coming out now is that in and of itself is ridiculous, because it was coming. It had a release date of September 11th, but we don't know why this editorial came out today. We don't know. We don't know the discussions that went on there. But I mean, Dan, here's the thing that I hear from Republicans, though, on should this person resign, or should they stay in place? This is a conversation Republicans have all the time, right? Stay in place because they care about the republic. That's what this entire piece is about. There are people within that are keeping the ship afloat. But you think resign and let the ship sink?
Yes, I think we have seen all these people who claim they're doing such good work to save America, whether it was Gary Cohn when he was in the White House, or this anonymous person, or Dina Powell and the NSC staff. They keep telling everyone, all their friends who don't like Trump or are in Washington, New York, that they're doing so much to save America, but we're not actually seeing the effects of that. Right? Donald Trump is still going out and announcing his support for neo-Nazis who marched in Charleston. He's still going out and buddying up to Putin in Helsinki.
No,
he's doing all of those things. They're not really doing anything other than helping themselves sleep at night.
On this whole
thing, let me finish. If you truly believe the President of the United States is dangerously unfit for the job, which almost every person who works for him seems to believe, every Republican in Washington believes, anyone who has watched this White House or has access to Twitter believes, then you should put your name to it and say it. And there's no courage in doing it through an anonymous New York Times op-ed. You should walk out of the White House, hold a press conference, and tell people what you see on a daily basis.
And you know what? No, I agree with them. And this is coming from somebody that is so concerned about America, but they can't even stop the president from tweeting, but they have all the answers. Give me a break. I mean, that's absurd. And the next
no
question,
one can stop the president from tweeting.
The next thing I would say is, where the hell is the vice president? We elected him and the vice president as a team. Where is he? We are all his soldiers out here defending this president, supporting him because he has done what we've wanted him to do on the economy and making America safer, and the vice president is MIA. Where the hell is he?
He may be busy writing a New York Times op-ed. Who knows?
You know what? He very well may be. And you know what, Dan? If he is, he needs to resign.
Well, that would be something if we broke that news here tonight. We'll leave it there. Amy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Dan, thank you so much. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Out front next, breaking news. The